G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff Ukraine War Update for 30th of January, 30th of January 2026. What's going on here? Right, one of my tabs, I just had to pause it, started auto-playing, I don't know why. Ads, right? Bloody ads. Can't even pause them anymore. Now, of course, as you know, the war of words continues, but in the West, the Western media dominates. They can produce any lie. Russia attacked 21 hours ago. Russia attacked and was a Ukrainian base in Lviv and was reported by Indian news. They even showed footage of the attack. Hours later, the Sun, the Telegraph, and all the other British establishment were showing the drone striking the helicopter, but saying it was a Ukrainian drone striking a Russian helicopter. Now, 40,000 people watched this Sun Telegraph, Murdoch slop, right? 18,000 watched the Indian and other footage, but as many point out with the British news, it's more and more becoming AI, an obvious AI. Doesn't even look like a Russian helicopter. Russia hasn't flown, well, it has Mil-24s, but it hasn't flown them, right? They're grounded. They've been scrapped, right? They have 28s and 56. Mil-24s are outdated, right? They're too old. Their airframes are old, right? They were built in the 90s. But here, Ukraine makes the Mil-24 and Mil-8, right? That's why the Russians don't use them anymore. Right? Equipment confusion, infiltration, right? That's why they grounded all Mil-24s and Mil-8s, right? And started destroying them, equipment, former Russian assets, right? That's what they're doing. You want to break away? Return everything to us. No? Okay, we destroy it. Ukraine are thieves. Right? They want, now, still, it's 1.5 trillion. 2 days ago was 800 billion. Before that, it was only 200 billion. Right? They want you to fund them for the rest of your life. They're never going to repay. You look at 1.5 trillion over 10 years, right? Their GDP is less than 130 billion, let alone 150. So it's a losing proposal. That's a theft. Now, here you have the helicopter, right? That's telling you the difference, what they are. There they are. They put their logo on it, but it was originally from Telegram and originally reported on Ukraine News. Oh, it was Zelensky, sorry. Yeah, it was loitering munitions. These are long run. These there's air defences trying to stop them. You can clearly see they shot off a few, and they got through. Zelensky was fuming. He called an emergency defence session. But during the session, he repeated his calls for killing 50,000 Russians. Remember the movie Downfall? For every bomb that hits Berlin, we are going to drop 10,000 on Moscow. I mean, for every bomb that falls on Kiev, we will drop 10,000 on Moscow tomorrow. Yeah, this is showing you how the footage, that they do. This is what Russia does. They do shoot down, and so does Ukraine, right? They do shoot down airborne drones using helicopters, right? This is the You can clearly see they have an American MX-134. That's not a Russian helicopter. It's a Russian-made helicopter with Western weapons. That is a Russian drone. There it is. Ukrainian helicopters shooting down Russian drones every day, right? But the UAVs increasingly are getting faster and getting through, and Ukraine can't keep up, right? See, is that Russian? Is that Russian with an American FLRS? That's not a Russian flag. That's what's left. There's some broken equipment. Now it's artist renderings showing you the drones use some sort of ground scanning to navigate to avoid jamming. More ads. Let's move on, right? But as cope and sieve, Ukraine has denied this, right? Deep strike, as they usually have, right? So much news is never reported by the West. So thousands every day are getting fake news. The only way to beat fake news is to beat the algorithm, right? Currently, the algorithm does not care if you upvote or downvote. You have to stop watching fake news. You have to start pressing likes and commenting on my videos. You have to watch them for at least 10 minutes. YouTube is changing its metrics. YouTube is trying to... YouTube is suppressing my channel. Right? How many channels after 2 years get almost no views? Unless there's some, obscure topic. Right? Every other channel. Right? It can't be that every single one of you just cannot stand the sound of my voice or think that I'm a Russian bot. I get, maybe in Denmark, you're all fucking brainwashed pussies. I hope not. I hope most of Europe ain't. But I think most of Europe is tuned out. Maybe most of America is tuned out. But unless you get rid of the fake news, right? The liberal establishment uses all these polls and metrics, right? And unless you start learning how to break them, right? They'll just brainwash a new generation of kids every year. Every year, young people, all they see is what's popular. They don't know what's true. And they see you, not passing on, They see you ignoring something, so they'll ignore it too. So the fake news just keeps on pumping out daily videos. AI slop. Because YouTube won't take it down. Because they're big corporations kissing each other's hiney. But if these big corporations don't get views... Alright, so we have Russia close to a military base ahead of Lyman. Obviously, they are fighting there. They are fighting, prolonged fighting now, towards Ribinskaya. Is it Vyazovskaya? They are obviously trying to both attack from the north, then the south, and then as the Ukrainians are either pushed out or killed, they advance. But they have not advanced far. Most of the battlefield is either static or cold. Particularly Chevashar. Chevashar's almost dead. But we have reports. Brezhnov has fallen, putting the Russian forces on the outskirts of Kolminskaya. That has yet been confirmed, but if Brezhnov has fallen, most of this territory in here will be cut off, from resupply. And most of these operations, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, a lot of these operations are what they call a clearing operation, right? Clearing out Ukrainian ammo dumps, infiltrators, unexploded ordnance. And sometimes it takes weeks before they can advance, because so often that's what happens. The Ukrainian unit goes into hiding and comes out and tries to attack the Russians from the rear, or they help coordinate drone strikes. The Ukrainians getting ever desperate has made it easier for Russians, and Russians have amplified their attacks, again catching Zelensky completely off guard. Right, it was here. Usually the Russian attacks peak midweek, but surprise! Now it's Friday in Ukraine, not Thursday. But yes, they say Thursday's attack. Yes, it was an attack on Thursday, 21 hours ago, Thursday night. But they are now on the outskirts of Tiamat. Russians have advanced. They're now on the outskirts of Tiranov. They've captured they've captured a second village. Bringing closer. The crossing at the Russians have failed to take the crossing not failed to take, but hold, right, the crossing at Pulinov, but for some reason changed their tactics to attack Zelensky, which I think is probably where artillery was located. So they're bringing up artillery onto multiple positions. This is probably low priority, but they've hit multiple positions today, hardly advanced, but still advancing. Now the fake news establishment, there you go, Chevichy and other areas, drone attacks, Dnipro. This map is put together by an organization called Deep State and is manned by Ukrainian volunteers. All the maps, except for the Russian map from Sputnik, is Ukrainian. So you can't say I'm using Russian news. Now, for some reason, right, some people are using such profound profanity on YouTube comments that YouTube is deleting them automatically. All right? So it sucks to be you, I guess, if you're one of these idiots who thinks Ukraine is winning the war and that I'm lying, because Ukraine is admitting they're losing. They just won't say it. They won't say I'm losing. They just say the technical situation at the moment is unfavourable. Like, they use doublespeak, right? They never directly admit anything that is negative. And they use constant propaganda of obviously AI stitched together photos. And never in their lives do they mention any military... They rarely mention military targets being hit. Right? Most of these drones that hit the cities are shut down or lost control because they're jammed. Now, Odessa has been hit. The death toll is up. Right? Now, according to the Russians, they shut down 111 drones. They didn't say how many were launched. You notice they're switching the drone count now for how many Russian launches to now how many Ukraine launches. They're desperate. They're desperate with their propaganda. All right. Kiev Mayor. Yeah, well, it is the temperatures have dropped to -9 Fahrenheit. It's -20 overnight in coldest winter since 2022, coldest winter, and that was the coldest winter since 1943, allegedly. There are a few cold winters here and there. I was in Netherlands when it hit -25 in the late 80s. Yeah, so global warming my ass. But the US envoy to NATO believes they've got all but one. Matt Whitaker has hit the ground running in the talks with NATO to try and get them to pull out of the Ukraine war. And of course, that's the issue. Everybody knows is territorial, that Zelensky won't give up territory. Some NATO countries are willing to give up the current territory, right? They say, Putin, compromise, accept what you've got. Now, Putin thinks thinks that he has to get all of Donetsk to satisfy the Duma, the people of Donbass, promises made. So what we're going to see, and should see, is a series of votes, right? If we're a nation of laws and democracy, should there not be proposals put to the people? Now, Russia doesn't want this, but neither does Ukraine, because Ukraine says, we can't hold a vote during the election, it's the law, everybody. Yeah. Like how he was given 90 days to step down and hand power back to the parliament, and he didn't. Latest breaking news is another Ukrainian assassination plot foiled. Ukraine ever increasingly desperate. Of course, inviting Russian attacks. But Zelensky saying, I can't hold talks because it's in Moscow. Well, that's the ultimatum. Right? You come sign the peace agreement, or it's going to be in Omsk. Right? Maybe in Omsk 2, or Satan 2. Right? You've got to be bloody audacious to call your missiles Satan. Okay? Then again, I doubt they use Satan. Okay? It's big. It's a city buster. And I mean, Satan can be nuclear, but these Russian orbs, they've been around since the 80s, right? These are round bombs, although increasingly they are conical. They attach them to a conical heat shield, and they're basically dropped from high orbit. They use high impact detonators, so it slams into something, it basically breaks through. And it's a big ball of same stuff they do use to detonate nuclear bombs, but it's ultra-high tetroxide explosive, the stuff they also use in rocket fuel. Basically, this stuff only has to smell a match to explode, but they use a nitrous big impact detonator, like a nitrous cartridge, like on a back of a bullet. Right, they basically drop these things from up high, right, with a ceramic plastic cone, right, and they basically use the impact of the fall, the weight of the weight, right, they weigh as much as a car, right, to smash through and then blow up, right, and they take out multiple city blocks, as but the nuclear version, of course, will take out the city. Well, at least 5 miles of it, and without the center of a city, it is the city, Ukraine is being toyed with. Russia has the ordnance. Unlike most countries, Russian ordnance is pretty good still, right? May not be able to stand a war with America, but they would give it, right? A non-nuclear war, yes, Russia would eventually lose. Everybody thinks, however, that it would be pointless. The cost to Europe alone would be far less than the valued resources they would ever get out of Russia. If they actually... Because Russia would just go nuclear. But UK seems to think that they could wear down Russia and cause regime change. But you have a convicted terrorist now in the UK government, or almost, right? They're trying to stop him from being elected, right? And this is the problem. UK is surrendered to the globalists, right? And Russia says, nah, fuck that shit. And Keir Starmer wants to be a good little cock. Now, Russia has not seen the security guarantees proposal, but of course, this is a draft for the Ukrainians only. I'm not surprised, but despite the fact that the United States says it was 100% ready, the agreements have not been tabled, according to the Turks. Lavrov also confirmed this. But at the same time, Russia has not seen the entire 29 plan that the West is now kicking around. This is an interim agreement based on Trump's original plans. Again, this is because it hasn't got past NATO, right? NATO wants the US to kick in half. No doubt. No doubt. Right? Now, maybe not half, right? The $800 billion in military aid is probably NATO, but they want US to kick in maybe half or all of the $600 billion for funding the Ukrainian people. There's basically welfare state, right? It's just another Israel. Just another insolent bunch of well-to-dos who are going to do nothing, make nothing, steal everything, right? Use all their cash flow to acquire, right? Because the West is just so adamant that everything is for sale. Because greed. And the liberal establishment always confesses by projection. Oh, yeah, sorry. But you can see with your own eyes over time, right? There's not much of a Ukrainian offensive, right? Every time the Ukrainians think they're going to do something, Russia fills the fields with ordnance. Another reason why Russia has to advance slowly, because they have to deal with their own ordnance as well. It's not just Ukrainian unexploded ordnance, their own unexploded ordnance as well. I don't know if or when Trump is going to put his foot down. We have Wall Street Journal, however, that's not a reliable rag. But we do have various reports every day that Trump is ever growing angry, ever growing frustrated with Zelensky. He has publicly stated that Zelensky is not interested in peace. So we're getting close to Trump, who's now walking around with multiple hand grenades without pins, going Denmark, Venezuela, Iran, couple at Cuba, couple at Ukraine, but the Ukrainian ones haven't hit the ground yet. He's just holding them up and rattling them. He hasn't thrown them yet, but the EU is, like entitled. For so long they've had NATO to rely on that they've basically become complacent, lazy, fat little hoarders in their ugly little hovels. So that's where we're at. And of course, yes, we do have a report on the number of Russians. Yeah, it's amazing. Russia launched 111. But wait a minute, isn't that how much Russia said that you guys launched? So you getting your news mixed up? Or, yeah, I think they're getting their news mixed up. And again, somebody probably just did a replace swap. When you go, oh, I want to change someone's name to something else, but, first we'll change Ukraine to Yuki, we'll change Russia to Ukraine, and then Yuki to Russia. Yeah. And along the way, they forgot which stories are what because they are so busy lying. Now, if Al Jazeera's course is getting worse, we're running out of places. I can't rely on Russian news. Got to bring a fair and balanced news so you can sort of gauge yourself what's going on, right? Because more and more, it's all just becoming propaganda, right? Anybody with half a brain knows that this ain't a passenger train of ordinary citizens, right? There's no normal life in a war zone, okay? These trains are moving men and machines every day, right? And never mind, right? Remember, how long before you found out that the Allies killed civilians in World War II? How long was it? How old were you when you found out the Americans deliberately bombed German cities, killing millions, not hundreds of thousands, but millions of women and children? Germany was crowded, overpopulated, right? They were cut off from migration to the big open spaces of the West. Irony. The Liberals talk about refugees, but they caused all these problems, created all these problems. They just can't reconcile their beliefs, can't face their own truths. So whenever it's bad, it's America. Whenever it's good, it was the Democrats. They are just so brainwashed at this point, they cannot tell the truth about anything. And the problem is, unless we can break the algorithms by using their own processes against them for engagement. So engagement's the only way to break the algorithms, right? Without a like, without a share, without a subscribe or comment, YouTube will just consider you, may even one day stop taking, they'll cut the view count. They'll start getting rid of subscribers if you're inactive. They'll call you. This is the problem, right? They always keep bringing these arbitrary rules to suppress channels. It's not to protect. They keep saying it's to protect the viewer experience. It's to deny you the truth. Maybe you could join me on Rumble, BitChute. But YouTube is the only platform now where you can reach millions, potentially. But millions rather watch trash. And that is why the liberal establishment is so bold. Support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below, or in my profile. Of course, you can always scan the QR code on the screen. Thank you for listening. See you in the next video, and bye for now.